Title: Journey of the Stars. Episode 3: Rising Tides. Istanbul in autumn was a city alive with color. The golden leaves of sycamores swirled gently in the crisp air, and the fading sun cast long shadows over the Bosphorus. The city buzzed with energy, much like the lives of its two rising stars, Demet and Can, who were navigating the complex world of performing arts. Their collaboration, Fusion, was gaining momentum after months of grueling work. But the journey had only just begun, and the road ahead was far from smooth. Early mornings and determination. Each day started early. Demet would wake before the city had fully stirred, her body aching from the previous day's rehearsals. She'd stand before her apartment's large mirror, looking at the reflection of someone constantly pushing past her limits. As a dancer, perfection was not just the goal, it was the requirement. Every pirouette, every leap had to be flawless. Her routines were a blend of classical dance and contemporary movements that needed not only precision but also emotional depth. She felt the pressure, especially with Fusion approaching its debut. In another part of the city, Ken's morning was similarly disciplined but more cerebral. His workspace was a controlled chaos of notebooks, half-written scripts, and a laptop perpetually on. He'd sit at his desk, sipping on strong coffee, while staring at the lines of dialogue that still felt incomplete. As the writer and co-creator of Fusion, Ken bore the weight of telling a compelling story, one that would be spoken in movements as much as words. He needed each scene to resonate with the audience, and that pressure, while exciting, was beginning to feel like a heavy burden. Their workdays, though separate in their focus, were united by their shared ambition. Every evening, they would meet at their favorite cafe, overlooking the Bosphorus. The cafe had become their haven, a place where ideas flowed freely. Surrounded by the hum of conversation and the rhythmic clink of cups, they would exchange notes, tweak ideas, and offer each other support. These sessions had become more than just business meetings. They were moments of connection that strengthened not only Fusion, but also their friendship. The first major challenge. As the deadline for Fusion drew closer, the weight of their workload became almost unbearable. Demet's body began to protest after weeks of pushing herself beyond what she thought was possible. Muscles ached, joints stiffened, and fatigue was beginning to cloud her concentration. It wasn't just the physical strain, it was the mental pressure as well. She had always been a perfectionist, but the stakes for Fusion were higher than anything she'd ever faced before. She knew that if she faltered, the entire project could suffer. Meanwhile, Ken was battling his own demons. The writer's block that had started as a small frustration had now grown into a full-fledged creative paralysis. He'd stare at the blank page, knowing exactly what he wanted to say, but unable to find the words. His characters felt flat, the scenes lifeless, and no amount of coffee or late-night brainstorming seemed to solve the problem. One particularly exhausting evening, Demet couldn't hold back any longer. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," she admitted, her voice tight with frustration. "I'm pushing myself so hard, but it's never enough. My body feels like it's going to give out." Ken looked at her, concern etched across his face. He had been so wrapped up in his own struggles that he hadn't fully grasped how much pressure Demet was under. "I know it's tough," he said gently, "but you're incredible at what you do. Everyone who watches you is going to feel that." Demet sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I just don't want to let anyone down." "You won't," Ken assured her, though his own doubts gnawed at him. Could they really pull this off? Fusion was their baby, something they had nurtured from the ground up. But now, it felt like it was slipping away from them. Leila's guidance. As fate would have it, just when their doubts were at their peak, Leila, the renowned theater director who had taken an interest in Fusion, came back into the picture. Leila had been following their progress from a distance, but had chosen this moment to step in, sensing that they needed a guiding hand. She invited them to her office, an elegantly furnished space filled with memorabilia from past productions. Posters of her most famous shows lined the walls, and the atmosphere was one of quiet confidence. Leila listened as Demet and Ken poured their hearts out, about the struggles, the frustrations, and the fear that Fusion might fail before it even had a chance to succeed. When they were finished, Leila leaned forward in her chair, her eyes sharp and focused. "I've watched you both closely," she began, her voice steady and reassuring. "And I can see that you have something special here. But you're holding back. You need to dig deeper, both of you. This project is about more than dance and dialogue, it's about emotion. You need to connect with your characters on a more personal level. What drives them? What are their flaws, their fears?" Her advice was a revelation. Demet and Ken had been so focused on the technical aspects of fusion that they had overlooked its emotional core. Leila's words reignited the passion they had initially felt when creating the project. They realized that to make fusion truly stand out, it had to be personal. Renewed dedication. With Leila's guidance, Demet and Ken returned to their work with renewed energy. Demet began to rethink her choreography, adding layers of emotion to her movements. It wasn't just about executing perfect steps anymore. It was about telling a story through her body, allowing herself to be vulnerable in ways she hadn't before. Ken, inspired by Leila's challenge, revisited his script. He spent hours writing and rewriting scenes, crafting dialogues that were more authentic, more raw. He began to understand his characters on a deeper level, and as he did, the words flowed more easily. Each scene began to take shape with a new sense of purpose, and the characters that once felt flat now seemed alive. Their rehearsals took on a new intensity. There were still moments of doubt, still days when things didn't go as planned, but the difference was that now they had a clear vision. They knew what they wanted fusion to be, and they were determined to make it happen. The buzz around fusion. Word about fusion began to spread throughout the local theater community. Leila's involvement had brought credibility to the project, and people were curious. Invitations to small performances started to come in, giving Demet and Ken the opportunity to showcase their work to a broader audience. Their first performance, held in a modest theater with only a few dozen seats, was a nerve-wracking experience. The small venue was packed with local artists, critics, and theater enthusiasts, all eager to see what fusion was about. As Demet and Ken took the stage, they could feel the weight of expectation in the air. But the performance was a success. Demet's dancing was flawless, her movements infused with the emotion and vulnerability that Leila had encouraged her to explore. Ken's script came alive with each line, the dialogue resonating deeply with the audience. When the final scene ended, there was a moment of silence, followed by thunderous applause. Demet and Ken stood on the stage, their hearts pounding, as the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. They had done it. Fusion had connected with the audience in a way they had only dreamed of. It was a validation of all the hard work, all the late nights and moments of doubt. A new opportunity. The success of their small performances led to an unexpected opportunity. A prestigious theater festival, known for launching the careers of up-and-coming artists, invited them to perform fusion on its main stage. It was the break they had been hoping for, a chance to present their work to a national audience and potentially secure funding for future projects. Excitement buzzed between them as they began preparations for the festival. The stakes were higher than ever, but so was their confidence. They had proven that fusion could captivate an audience, and now they were ready to take it to the next level. The night before the festival. The night before the festival was filled with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Demet and Ken sat in the theater, going over their final notes and rehearsing last-minute adjustments. Everything had to be perfect, but then, disaster struck. Just hours before their performance, the lead actor in their troupe fell ill with a severe case of food poisoning. Panic set in as they realized they might have to cancel the show. "We can't cancel," Demet said, her voice strained with anxiety. "This is our chance. Our one big opportunity." Ken nodded, though he was equally panicked. "We'll find a solution. We have to." Cliffhanger. The clock was ticking, and the pressure was mounting. The festival audience was beginning to gather, and the spotlight was on them. Would they find a last-minute replacement? Could they adjust the show in time to accommodate the loss of their lead actor? Or would fusion, their labor of love, crumble under the weight of this unexpected crisis? As they stood backstage, the weight of the moment pressing down on them, Demet and Ken exchanged a look, one of determination and trust. They had come too far to give up now. The answer to their dilemma was just beyond their reach. waiting to unfold as the curtain was about to rise. The audience waited with bated breath, and so did they. Note: this story is a work of fiction inspired by the public personas of Demet, Özdemir, and Kenyaman. Any resemblance to actual events or individuals is purely coincidental. The narrative is crafted for entertainment purposes, highlighting themes of ambition, resilience, and collaboration.